Hello, trading has closed on the 2nd of October 2025. As always, we'll start with our disclaimer. We'll go over our calls and then make our predictions. Even though it's not the weekend, I want to direct people's attention to what's coming up in the long-term picture. This is my trading plan for Friday. Friday's October 3rd. 2025. Please remember, I can change my plan. I can be completely wrong, and all trades should be made at your own risk. We look for the pattern with the early low, which is this, and tomorrow should also have the early low. We said unless we gapped up smartly, we had a target of 66.9702, which is also a support level. Well, we gapped up smartly, so according to the rules, I get no credit, even though we hit the number. Once we gap up, the number is still on the table, but not the time. It doesn't mean you're not going to print it today. It just means I'm not predicting it'll print today, so I get no credit. But anyone positive on the market could certainly have used this number as a support level, which did work. Now this is a pattern which usually rallies into the close. And this isn't a rally into the close. Now, tomorrow's open can substitute for the close, so if you gap up here, all is well. But as of right now, it's a negative pattern. It should lead to lower prices. Doesn't mean you close lower. We said if the decline was going to have a chance, here's what we said: if lower targets are going to print anytime soon, it's ideal to have a weak opening. Well, that's a weak opening, and almost always when you get a weak opening, lower prices are coming. Now, it doesn't have to undercut this low. You don't have to have a lower close, but usually you're going to trade lower than we closed today when the opening's weak. It should lead to more weakness. I'm still waiting to see this target, even though it doesn't have to print anytime soon. I'm becoming convinced we're not going to have to wait that long. During the day, MEJT gave a buy signal and an ultimate buy signal. We didn't have to go as high as we did, but doesn't mean you wouldn't. Now what I want to do is direct your attention to the DeMark accounts. This is a daily chart. We have 9 bars of combo. We have 8 bars of sequential. If we keep rallying, 13 bars completes the pattern. If it's a huge rally, you could always recycle if you're too much bigger than this bar number 9. But if we just inch up a little bit, by next week, by Thursday of next week, if you inch up every day, we'll have triggered combo and sequential sell signals on the daily chart. Now, if that continues, tomorrow will already be on a combo sell. At the end of the week, this should be bar 12 of the sequential. So by the end of next week, not only will you have bar 13 combo and sequential on the daily, you'll also have them on the weekly. And we're already in bar 13 on the monthly. So all these things will line up by the end of next week. This is very rare. The last time I remember all these things lined up was right at the bottom in 2009, where they called it perfectly. Now, DeMark's stuff is more accurate on calling bottoms than it is on calling tops. And it could fail, and if it fails in grand style. Just be aware we're going to have a lot of things triggering at the end of next week if the rally continues, and the end of next week, by a totally different mechanism, is a Woodson turn date. And if you're creative enough, you can always find some wave count that works. I've been reluctant to call this a wave 3, but maybe that was a mistake. I think it was not as clear a 5-wave structure as I would like, but it certainly looks like an impulse. And just because the third wave of the third wave wasn't perfect, that doesn't make it not a third wave. And if this is one, and if wave 2 ended here, and if that's 61.8%, we're at 100. And if that's the right count, that's a nice relationship between 3 and 1. Again, just because one wave count doesn't mean it's the only wave count, but if we just inch up slightly for the next week or so, all these things are going to line up with sentiment indicators which are at an extreme. Now again, if it fails big, but the end of next week is looking like it could be a very critical time. Well, Friday's pattern has a really low regardless of where we open. Today's normally bullish pattern was weak. The steep early drop typically is associated with lower prices printing soon, and the failure of the close to be near the high is confirmation. Unless we gap and promptly overtake the high today, we should trade lower. That's not a guarantee that we close lower. Other than for the sentiment indicators, most of the signs I follow call for a continuation of the rally, even though we could have a pullback. But a big exception to this are the DeMark signals. If the rally continues here, we'll have multiple sell signals triggering in alignment with each other on the daily, weekly, and monthly charts. I think this happens maybe once or twice in a decade like this. Again, the last one I think there was one other between now and the 2009 low. My memory's failing me. I know they worked at that low. There might have been one other one. If the rally continues, that's an if, we could get this alignment by the end of next week. And October 10th, Friday of next week, is a Woodson turn date as well. Don't forget, his turn dates have a couple of days leeway. I think it pays to be aware of the time period at the end of next week. None of these things have to go to completion. None of these things have to work, but we have sentiment, we have the wave count, we have DeMark stuff. This is really overextended here. It could still fail in grand style. I'm not betting money on this yet, but by the end of this week, end of next week, these things will trigger if the rally continues. And it could be a big payoff if you're on the right side. It's the pattern tomorrow with the early low, and that is today's call.